So tell us a little bit about, let's just jump on in and talk about this conference. How long has it been going on?
So I work
Okay.
a lot with obesity, the obesity population and the type 2 population. I'm always going to advocate for therapy and, make sure that we are
Yeah,
addressing that. So if there are technical complaints or issues, you're able to reach out to us there. We're
sure,
very responsive.
sure. Hello and welcome to the show. Cassandra, we're happy you're here today.
Thanks so much. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is an important, we're going to get to know you first.
Sure.
And then we're going to share a very important conference that the type 1 diabetes community can really be a part of and to get a lot of value from. So
Absolutely.
more to come on that as we talk through this. But let's start off with, you are a registered dietitian
I am.
and you also live with type 1. It's
Okay.
one of those magic things, right? Those of us that work in the field, and then it's a bonus when we know it and we get it, because
Absolutely.
that's really what resonates with people. And I'm sure a lot of people that that you get to meet and help. So tell us a little bit about you and your diagnosis story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed when I was a kiddo. I was diagnosed in 1998. I went on an insulin pump when I was 5. And it's funny, my mom always made a joke growing up. She's like, oh my gosh, you're going to grow up and you're going to find the cure for diabetes. And I was like, Mom, I am not going to do that. I live with the disease. That's plenty. Like, I will not be working in diabetes healthcare. And then, funny enough, I get to high school and I'm like, I'm actually kind of interested in healthcare. And I wanted to find the track to become a diabetes educator. It was still called a CDE at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, the only tracks were to be a doctor, to be a nurse, or to be a dietitian. And to be a doctor was a lot of school. To be a nurse was a lot of poking and prodding that made me a little bit nervous. So I was like, maybe that's not the path for me. And so that left being a dietitian. Love food. I also have celiac. So I have worked
Mm.
with dietitians before. So that was a really great transition into, okay, this is a good pathway. I can address both of my chronic illnesses through this degree. So I went to school to become a dietitian, went to James Madison and got the dietetics degree. I went
Mm-hmm.
to University of Maryland Eastern Shore to do my dietetic internship. They had a specialty in diabetes, and so that's like what their program is known for.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
really?
COVID happened that
Wow.
year. So I didn't even get to finish the rotation that I went there to complete to like get the diabetes specialty,
Mm-hmm.
but it was still a good process nonetheless. Became a dietitian, and my first year as a dietitian, I worked in long-term care, and then I transitioned to clinical research down here in North Carolina at the University of North Carolina, and I work in diabetes and obesity clinical research trials. And my mom was like, "I
So
told you."
interesting.
So that's
You
how we
said it
met.
out loud right here and
I
today.
know, I know. I tell her
Mm,
often. I was like, you knew the whole
mm.
time that what my track was going to be, but I couldn't admit it
Ye-
myself then.
Funny you say that. Yes. Yeah. We do know our children, and I know we
I
roll
know.
our eyes. I'm still rolling my eyes too. It's funny because I have a daughter about your age,
Sure.
and I knew, she knew, but I also knew. I mean, it didn't surprise me when she told me when she was just getting out of high school and getting into college that she wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And I had no doubt because, again, we know our kids and we know their strengths and what they would just, it'd be like I was picturing. I'm like, yep,
I
yep,
know.
that's Sarah. That's Sarah. She's
I
very,
know.
very problematic, or problematic's not the word, but just very, just
Yes.
kind of knows. I mean, she's
Decisive.
just on it,
Yeah.
decisive, but very compassionate, which
Yeah.
is something that anybody in healthcare, especially nurses that have to work alongside. So anyway, this is
Absolutely.
funny.
No, it's totally
That's,
fair. When I told her, I
yeah.
was like, so I'm going to apply for a job in clinical research. She was like, I told you. I was like, mom knows best. I know.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good story. So what about mental health? Now,
Mhm.
how at what point did you realize how close, because this is a big part of this conference that we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about, in the connection. And before you and I even hit record today, it's like, A1C, time and range, all getting those levels in, those twice a year blood works that we get are indicators and
Right.
their feedback. But really, it's the day to day that determines not
Right.
only our care and our results, but our relationship with this disease, which is the number one thing. It really is, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. We
Uh,
like to, part of the conference is to emphasize that like mental health is health. We can get the
mm,
labs, we can do the A1C, but if we don't take care of ourselves on that front too, we know that this disease is lifelong. It's chronic. It's not going to always go the way that we necessarily want it to. I
Mhm.
like to tell my patients too, like, you can do everything right at the same thing day after day, and you're going to have different results every day.
Yeah.
And so, how can we maintain ourselves so that we don't have burnout, so that our partners and our family members are able to care for us in a good way too? So, this conference is a really great way to do that. I attended first. I
Okay.
was in attendance last year, and I was trying to. I work a couple different jobs. I work in eating disorders, and I work in clinical trials, and I work in
Okay.
clinical dietetics. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to find a way to pair all of these together. How can we make diabetes and mental health more interconnected? And I found this conference. And so I attended last year, and then I was like, this is a great opportunity and something that I definitely want to be a part of. So I volunteered to be on part of the planning committee this year. So that's
Mhm.
been really, really fulfilling and really interesting to see how the conference is
Yeah.
put together too, and to see how we're able to say, okay, this is something that's really been coming up in my practice this year. Maybe we should have a session on this. So we have a lot of different topics that can be addressed with the conference, and there's something for everybody, whether you are
Mm.
a professional in healthcare, if you are a, somebody living with diabetes, both type 1 and type 2, and if you're a parent or a caregiver or just a partner of somebody that has diabetes,
Yeah.
it affects so many different facets of your life. So we think that it's a really important conference, and we're really hoping that we get great attendance, and we think it's really
Yeah. Absolutely. So what do you see now as the gaps in traditional diabetes care?
great question.
And how is this conference going to fill those gaps?
Yes, at least from what a lot of my patients have been telling me, at least in the last year, is that, you know, the doctors see me for who I am sitting right in front of them, and they don't necessarily talk about the way that it can impact my day to day life outside of the office, right? We see the lab value, like you were talking about. We see the A1C, we
Mhm.
see the time and range, and there are a lot of numbers that are focused on. But it's also
Mhm.
how do I take care of myself personally so that I can get those numbers to be in that range
Mm.
that they're recommending? And
Mm.
that's where we think that the mental health component is really important. People living with ADHD, people living with eating disorders, these add different
Mm.
facets to our way of managing these diseases. Intimacy, and how does having high blood sugar versus being in range and affect intimacy in the way that we're able to show
Yeah.
up for our partners too.
Really
Having
good. Yeah.
an off day, it's not necessarily going to be the
Yeah.
most partner based presence that can
Get it.
all the time. So
I get it.
kind of focusing on those different aspects of how can we address different gaps, like you were saying. I mean, I know that being a
Yeah.
general term, but there are so many different
Sure.
facets to it that
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah.
diabetes that we have to worry about. We're parents, we are siblings, we are
Mhm.
children of that have to take care of other people. And so incorporating the human aspect of it and not just managing the diabetes itself, we like to make sure we
Mhm.
focus on.
Yeah. And as you know, and I'm sure the conference dives into this, or it's a reminder
Yeah.
because those of us living with it, we know
Yeah.
this is a constant disease. I mean,
Yeah.
we take it with
Absolutely.
us wherever we go. It impacts our relationships. Our relationships impact
Right.
diabetes. There's so much overlap. It's
Yeah,
just it's
absolutely.
yeah, it's so much nuts. I mean, it really is. And when you think about it, and here on the show, we talk a lot about hormones. So that's another factor.
Yeah,
And that's for any stage, specifically for women, because we have a little bit more variation in our hormones. Men drop off a little bit and,
absolutely.
a little bit later in life, but that is another whole layer.
Yeah,
And then you talk about how that's affecting not only your care, but your relationship with
yeah,
aging with the chronic disease. And then, and maybe you've got other autoimmune on top of
right.
it. There's
Absolutely.
a yeah. So tell us a little bit about, let's just jump on in and talk about this conference. How long has it been going on? What year are we on right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't actually know the answer to that. I will absolutely
Yeah.
get back to you on that. But I know that the way that Allison is the founder of it, and
Mm-hmm.
she had been attending a lot of different conferences. She's a therapist, and she was noticing the gaps between mental health and diabetes, and that these larger diabetes conferences have tons and tons of sessions, but they don't really talk about mental health in the same
Yeah.
capacity. And so she saw that there was a need for this. And so she created her own conference and hoping that it could be as accessible as possible. It's virtual. And so
Mhm.
it's a 2-day conference. We have two tracks to this conference. We have a
Okay.
general track and a continuing education track. So if you pay for a CEU track, you can still pick the general admission track sessions if you want. You don't necessarily have to stay limited to that.
Okay.
But the general track is more for individuals living with it, for caregivers, for parents, whereas the
Okay.
CEUs are more for, you know, therapists, social workers, dietitians, doctors. We do get approved by a couple different of the approval bodies, the governing bodies that accept CEUs.
Oh,
So there
nice.
are lots of different tracks that there are two tracks with lots of different sessions.
Okay.
So that's kind of the general information about it. We also are sponsored by a lot of organizations and companies in the diabetes space. So we have
Nice.
partnerships with like Diatribe. I'm looking at our list to make sure I'm like highlighting a lot of them.
Mhm.
Diatribe and Omnipod. We've done sessions with MiniMed, Tandem, things like that. So there are opportunities
Nice.
for people in the space to access different companies as well and gain exposure there. So to do that, we have keynote sessions, we have closing sessions that are more call to action based. And then
Okay.
we're going to do a Q&A panel session this year. And so what we're looking at this year is longevity with diabetes, people that have lived with it for decades. And what does that look like? And so it'll have a bunch of different individuals, people with type 1, people with type 2, people that are still in the diabetes space. Like we're going to have Aaron Kowalski on the panel this year, the founder of JDRF Breakthrough T1D.
Yeah.
So we've got, or the CEO of Breakthrough T1D. So we've got a lot of great opportunities and venues to learn here, and a lot of the team members that we have speaking and presenting in the sessions this year live with diabetes themselves because we want to have representation too. It's not just do this; it's do this,
Right.
and I have experience and I know it's
Right,
a little bit
right, right. Tell
diverse
me,
that
yeah,
way too.
and I'm sure there's there's some stories shared, which really
Absolutely.
makes it really connecting and, relatable and everybody. Can you give us a sneak peek of maybe some of the keys,
Yeah,
the keynote
absolutely.
speaker or some of the speakers?
Yep. So we have who we have this year. We have Rob Howe, we have Aaron
Okay.
Kowalski, we have Laura Pavlova. Oh my gosh.
Yep, yep. I know the name and it's a little hard to pronounce. Yep, yep. Pavlovich.
Pavlovich. Oh my gosh, I always
Mm-hmm.
stumble over that. But the
Mm-hmm.
founder of You're Just My Type. So
Yeah.
she'll be presenting as well. And then some of the kind of topics we have going this year
Yeah.
include adjustment psychosocial support for siblings with type 1 diabetes,
Mm.
diabetes distress and how to manage the different stages of it, navigating highs and lows, working with our loved ones, defeating diabetes stigma, navigating relationships, sex and intimacy, and the emotional impact of the data that we receive, things like that. Impacts of highs and
Nice.
lows and frequent
Okay.
lows, hypoglycemia, and perfectionism that we try to
Mm-hmm.
achieve there.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that. That's kind of what we've got.
Yeah. And that sounds like a lot of those topics that you mentioned sound like, because you talked about relationships. So if you're married to somebody with type 1,
Yeah, absolutely.
to have them sit in and watch some of these, there's definitely some of those sessions. It sounds like it would be very, and the hardest part, I think, with anything is getting the conversation going.
Right, exactly.
Maybe it's right. It's the husband and wife, or it might be siblings that just don't know quite how to bring it up. So if you have something like this, that's going to kind of be the icebreaker to kind of get get the conversation going.
Absolutely.
To
We
get
like
that
to think of
It
it as
sounds like
a bridge to, bring that
love
topic
it.
up front in a way that makes it
Yeah,
approachable for the caregiver, for the
for
family member,
everybody.
for the
Yeah,
individual with diabetes themselves.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, you probably don't know this about me, but my husband also lives with type 1.
Very nice. That's so fascinating.
That's
That's
fascinating
so
as
cool.
right.
That's so that's
I
wild.
know, right?
Oh my
And I
gosh.
have no idea what the stats are on that. It's, it's probably pretty minimal, but yes. Yeah, he was on the show. I finally got him on
Great.
to talk with him about 5, 6 weeks ago. So that was cool to share him.
Very nice.
And I'm coming up on 44 years.
Wow.
And he's 40 years. So I was diagnosed as
Wow.
a teenager. He was diagnosed at 20. So yeah, incredible. Needless to say, there's a lot to share there. And we all have a story, don't
Yeah,
we?
absolutely.
And they're all valid. They're valid, but they all matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every experience, and I think you as a caregiver, and somebody that works in the field, and somebody who lives it, I am guaranteed that you learn as much as they do.
Oh,
Isn't
yeah.
it incredible when we get to literally walk alongside
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
hear? Yeah.
And I like to highlight with them too. In my current role, I work a lot. We have research studies that involve type 1 diabetes, but I'm not on that as frequently. So I work
Okay.
a lot with obesity, the obesity population and the type 2 population. But the stories that they tell me and how it's frustrating for them and the stigma that they have um,
Wow.
mirrors a lot of what I felt growing up with it too. I think
Mm,
too often we kind of categorize like type 1 and type 2 are so different. They're these different realms, but they make us feel the same way,
yeah. It's so
And
true.
so I try to it's very humbling in moments like that. And I try
Hmm.
to mirror that that is not an uncommon feeling for somebody living with diabetes. Like
Yeah.
it's frustrating sometimes and it feels like a very individualized thing. And at the same time, it feels somewhat universal to be frustrated with the
Mm.
numbers that we see. And we can be doing all the things
Yeah.
right. And sometimes it doesn't go the way that we picture it. So,
So true. So true. I saw a statistic the other day, and I'm just going to throw this out there that and this is strictly for women because I was just kind of researching it
yeah,
for women. So I know this is much broader for, what your audience is going to be and the people that you help. But there's an estimated 1.8 to 2.5 million women. Again,
sure.
that's the stat I got, age 40 and over
Okay.
worldwide with type 1 diabetes.
It's fascinating. It's
Isn't that incredible?
like,
Yeah.
that it's common and then you hear numbers like that and you're like, oh, it's actually everywhere. That is so, so
Yeah.
common.
It definitely is everywhere. Yeah, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, because I know we have listeners from all over the world for this show.
It's
So it's just
fascinating.
incredible that, this can stream everywhere. And obviously
Total reach
yeah.
has.
And this conference is for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all online. It's a Friday and a
Hmm.
Saturday. And so we want to
Okay.
make sure we know we have ticket reports so far of what's been booked. Early bird sales end March 1st. So if people want to get it
Oh,
out for
okay.
that.
Okay.
But we're selling tickets up until then, and so it's the first weekend of May, and we have
Okay.
people from multiple countries that have signed up
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah.
There's US and Canada and Mexico and some in India,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're all over. It's so fascinating to know that the conference that you put on and that you can quite frankly run from your house can like reach millions or
It's amazing.
continents. It's
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah. So what would somebody who is going to sign up and join the conference, what can they expect as far as those 2 days? So you say so it's May 1st and 2nd?
May 1st and 2nd. We have sessions on Friday. So on Friday, it starts about midday. Our welcome remarks start at about 11 a.m. And
Mm-hmm.
then we end between 4:45 and 5 on that Friday. But
Okay.
we do have evening sessions. So if you wanted to attend what we call our
Oh,
fireside chats, those tend to be later in the
nice.
evening. And then on
Okay.
Saturday, we start again at 11 a.m. And then that wraps up generally about 6 p.m. So we have block sessions that occur. So we have our welcome remarks, and then we have a block session, and then we have our product theater from those sponsors, like I was telling you about. And then we have
Okay.
another session, main keynote. And so those keynote speakers are spread throughout the weekend so that you can make sure to see all of them. And it's not so conglomerated together. But
Okay.
the closing remarks are in the 5 o'clock hour on Saturday, and the starting welcome is around 11 a.m. on Friday.
Really nice, really nice. So it's something where you would get the itinerary ahead of time,
Yes.
knowing who, when, the times and all that so that you can plan your 2 days accordingly.
Yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And then the
Yeah.
panel is in the later portion of the day on Friday. We have breakout sessions so that you can see the products that we have available or in the partners that we've worked with, as well as you've got breaks built into your day too. It's not it's not so
Yeah, really.
locked to the
Yeah.
computer that day too.
Right, you're
It's
right. You're not sitting in
Mhm.
front of the computer for 12 hours straight, right? Now, and I can only assume that this is interactive to
Yeah.
a point. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
and we've got our team through the conference planning committee is moderating it. So you'll have somebody on the planning committee in each session, and then also the speaker that will be presenting for that session. And then we always have chats available through the sessions, and our inbox will be monitored as well. So if there are technical complaints or issues, you're able to reach out to us there. We're
Sure.
very responsive.
Sure.
Yeah. So there are
Yeah.
there's that portion built into the individual sessions, and then as I mentioned, there is a panel that will be occurring, and so there will be an interactive portion built into that too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's something I value
Yeah,
personally is, it's nice to come in and learn and to maybe, to hear, obviously the information, the resources, but to be able to maybe put it into action even a
yeah,
little bit, right? Or just to interact with other people.
yeah,
Um, yeah, to me, that's where the magic is. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing it that way.
Sessions
Some,
have some recording capabilities, and then for the individuals with the CEU track, you get that access as well, so that you
that makes
can,
sense.
if you are not able to attend all sessions but want to get those continuing education, you can watch that and submit. You have to submit within a certain deadline, which I'm that within a certain time so that you can get those continuing education units.
That
But
makes
yes,
sense.
portions of it are recorded.
Nice. Okay. Now, is there anything that jumps out at you as far as the topics or a guest speaker, a presenter that it's like you're just over the moon excited about?
I'm really excited about
I
Laura
love to
and
hear.
Rob because I follow them on social media too.
Uh,
So it feels like in a weird way we're having like a diabetes celebrity.
right.
Not that the presentations themselves are not exciting. I'm really interested in a lot of these sessions and working
Mm-hmm.
with new connections that I haven't worked with in the past and kind of
Yeah.
building that diabetes world a little bit bigger.
Right.
But
Right.
it's also really fascinating to see and interact with individuals that you like see online, but you're like, oh, I can actually have a conversation with you. It's not such a
Yeah.
figment of your imagination anymore.
Right. 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 Exactly. Knock down the wall a little bit. Yeah, I like that. So what's the hope that people will walk away after these 2 days? Again, this is the Diabetes and Mental Health Conference that we're talking about May 1st and 2nd.
Yes, absolutely.
And
We're
yeah,
hoping that it opens the door for conversation for individuals and that they feel a little bit better prepared to
mhm,
address some of these things or to at least even acknowledge that,
mm,
it can be stigmatizing to have diabetes. It can be feel individualized and kind of isolating sometimes, but there's a
yeah,
broader network out there of individuals looking to build that community and build that connection and to say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to need help with these
mm,
topics and
mhm,
trying to bridge the gap between diabetes care and mental health care. They don't necessarily have to be two separate silos. They can be
mm,
combined, and mental health is health, right? It's important to have those in range A1C
yeah,
values and to work with your team to address what time and range looks like and also have a mental health conversation to make sure that
mm,
you are able
yeah,
to handle the longevity of living with a disease like diabetes.
yeah, yeah, it's really good. I love how, conferences like this are breaking the stigma.
Yeah,
I think we're doing a good job with just all the interaction online.
absolutely,
I mean, the community is pretty robust. The
for
community,
sure.
there is no, maybe because we're biased and we're in it, but the T1D
Totally fair.
community it's incredible. It's such a unique disease to share and to learn from others. So I love that this is just kind of breaking down that wall, just knocking down that wall and say, hey, let's talk about
Yeah,
this. It's time
just
that
trying to
we
make the
make.
conversation accessible too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if somebody, you mentioned at the beginning about burnout. This kind of the theme of this year's conference. So if somebody is struggling silently with diabetes burnout or emotional overwhelm with, again, life plus a disease that doesn't take a break,
Sure.
do you have any advice for, the listeners here?
Great question. I would highlight I'm always going to advocate for therapy and, make sure that we are
Yeah.
addressing that. I don't feel like you can take care of other people or take care of a lifelong disease without taking care of that aspect of yourself.
Yeah.
And so making sure that you have the support and the community around you to manage a disease like that is incredibly important. And to also recognize that it's, oh my gosh, what is the word I'm trying to say there? It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? Like it's a
Right.
lifelong thing that's going to ebb and flow with the intensity of it and how we feel to address it. Over time, it's going to change and we're going to have a different relationship with the disease as we age too. And as we spend more and more years with this disease,
Yeah.
even just like I mentioned in the beginning, I grew up thinking I was never going to have a career in it. Now that's my profession.
Look at you.
So,
Right. Right.
it changes and it adapts. Adapt to it. Individuals with
Hmm.
diabetes, living with diabetes, tend to be really adaptable. And so I like to
Yeah.
just focus on that, you might feel like you're stuck in a phase where nothing's going right and everything's going wrong. And it can be incredibly frustrating. And it does
Yeah.
get better and it does change. And to place interventions in your routine that can help that, whether that's therapy or even just going outside and going for a walk and
Right.
prioritizing yourself in a way that it's not just
Hmm.
like prioritizing yourself with the disease, but you as a human too. That makes
Hmm.
sense. I think that that's really
It
important.
does. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it does start, the whole, I remember too growing up that, it wasn't done out of ill intention by people, or we even called ourselves diabetic. And I
Right.
know that's, and that's a term that I think some people are more sensitive to,
Absolutely.
but that's not that it's what we have and what we manage, but it's not who we are necessarily. So, and just kind
Absolutely.
of, yeah,
I find myself daily saying that when I'm interacting with my patients. I'm like, I'm a diabetic too. And I'm like, I'm a person with diabetes. Not that I don't own that I have
I know.
diabetes, but
Yeah.
trying to reframe it where it's like, I am more than the disease.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the disease, I wouldn't probably be on the trajectory that I'm on right now. And so
Hmm.
I'm thankful for it in a lot of ways, but
Right.
reframing it in a way where I am more than that. And so I
Yeah.
think that's really important. And we
Yeah.
try to highlight
Yeah.
that too.
I like that. Yeah. Well, I'm personally looking forward to this conference.
Mm.
I'm going to be getting my tickets, and I've got quite a few clients that I'm working with, and again, everybody can benefit.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you're putting it out. It's breaking that stigma. It's giving us the information, giving us the resources, being able to hear from different people, because I coach,
Yeah.
and I'm just, I may be their only person in their corner.
Sure.
It's just nice to get other views and other ideas, and to hear from other people also managing it. So I love the fact that obviously a lot of your presenters live with this type. There's nothing more special about that. I think
It's
that's the
really
number one
encouraging.
connector. Yeah,
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 it's really cool to see,
yeah.
like, when we publish the programs, there's always a mark that says individual living with diabetes too. And so you can really see the impact of the extent of how many people are living with it. It's not just something that people talk about, it's in our community, it's present. That's
Hmm.
really fascinating. And it's one thing I really love about this conference too is that it has such a wide array of presenters themselves. We have social work and therapists and individuals working in research. And so it's not just a doctor talking at you. And
Yeah.
not that that doesn't have a place, right? But it's so
Hmm.
much more. We try to address all the facets of
Yeah.
how to manage a disease through different lenses.
I like that, through
Thanks.
different lenses. Absolutely. Okay. Well, wait, do you have any final words of thoughts about this upcoming conference that
We
the
would just
listeners
love
should
to
need to
have
know?
you.
Yeah.
2 days. It is a Friday and a Saturday, the first weekend of May, so May 1st and May
Mhm.
2nd. Completely
Mhm.
virtual, 2 different
Yeah.
tracks. There's a general track and a continuing education track, but you can kind of pick and choose your sessions and build a
Okay.
conference that works for you.
Awesome. Really good. Well, we got all the links to put it right here to make it easy for
Perfect.
for the listeners, and yeah, we'll definitely be sharing this online as well. And there is a small cost
Yes.
to register. Yeah.
Yes. That there are
Okay.
costed tickets. So early bird
Yeah.
registration ends in March, and then
March.
it goes to regular
Okay.
ticket pricing at that point.
Okay. Again, all the information will be in the link that we share. So
Hmm.
thanks, Cassandra, for being here. And maybe
Thank
we'll
you
have
so
you
much
back
for
in
having me.
another time talking some other topics because I would love to pick your brain about some other things because you were
Absolutely.
obviously somebody that can add a lot of value to what we share here on the show. So again, we thank you. And we're very thankful to be able to talk about this upcoming conference. Allison has been on the show before and we love her and just support all that she's doing and all that this conference is bringing to our community and just really appreciate it. I
Thank you
can't
so
say that
much. We're
enough.
really,
Yeah,
really
you're
thankful for
welcome.
any opportunity that we have to promote it. We
Yeah,
feel really strongly about it, and we want to make sure that the community knows that
right,
we're out
right.
there and that it's
Yeah,
easily accessible.
yeah, yeah. And another thing that I think, those walls that are up there, and it's not intentional walls, but people don't necessarily get this information. It's one of those things you don't know about it unless you're told about it.
Right.
Because people aren't necessarily saying, they might be sitting and they might be thinking about what's going on. They're going to their doctor. They know they need more help. And whether or not they're searching for this help or
Right.
looking for conferences, looking for availability that they can attend, that's so flexible.
Absolutely.
It's just so nice to put it out there and say, hey, guess what? Check this out. This might be something perfect for what she
Yeah.
needs. So
I
I
stumbled
love that.
across it. I was scrolling
There
on
you go.
Instagram last year, and it was on my For You page, and I said, "I am very interested in diabetes and this is great. Let me attend."
That's
So,
perfect. It
happy to
found you,
watch it.
right? Well, thanks a lot. Well, be sure to check out the link right here. We'll make that easy and accessible right here in the show notes. And again, the website is it's dmhconference.com. But I will link it all here as well. So we'll make it easy for everybody. Thanks again. And
Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been a pleasure.
you're welcome. And we'll be back in here next week. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, wherever you are listening to this. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.